Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are taking a pretty perilous journey north. We're sifting through a stack of sources that detail a world steeped in cold mountains, brutal politics, and crucially, a really intense collision of cultures.
It is, and this isn't just, a fantasy geopolitical conflict we're looking at. This is a raw, brutal account of how power changes hands.
And how a single person's identity can be, well, completely shattered and then rebuilt in the middle of war.
That's right. The whole narrative is centered on this long-running, centuries-long war between the human Southlands, which is represented by this really rigid, repressed court, and the fiercely independent, wolf-ruled Northlands.
But like you said, we're not just looking at battle lines on a map. We're analyzing this whole conflict through the eyes of one person, Princess Aurora. She's a royal captive who is just violently stripped of her status.
And thrust right into the chaotic, almost feral heart of the Northlands' power structure.
So our mission today is, well, it sounds simple, but it really isn't. We're going to try and analyze the profound political and cultural gulf that keeps these two societies so bitterly divided.
And we'll trace the incredible psychological transformation of Aurora. I mean, she goes from this repressed statue, as she calls herself, to an agent of violence.
And ultimately, we want to figure out who, or maybe what holds the real power here. Is it honor? Is it some primal wildness? Or is it just pure cold calculation that's driving everything?
Well, the material we have is just incredibly rich for that because it puts these huge themes of state conflict right next to these, granular details.
Like what specifically?
Well, character psychology, these really intimate moments, but also intricate lore, details about wolf physiology, healing times, full moon cycles, even the precise effectiveness of things like silver and wolfsbane.
And we have to focus on what those little details imply about the Northland society as a whole.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Our sources, they don't really ease us in. They just dump us directly into the heart of Southland's cruelty.
They really do.
We start with Aurora, the politically essential princess, being forced to watch this brutal dogfight. It's a spectacle orchestrated by her just loathsome betrothed, Lord Sebastian.
And this is the stage. This is where the alpha, Callum, makes his unforgettable first appearance. The setting immediately tells you everything about the Southlands trying to contain this wildness.
Right, Sebastian is trying to show dominance over this wolf element by forcing them into these violent fights for sport.
And we learn right away that the alpha's ferocity is just immense. Sebastian himself confirms it. He says it took 5 men to bring the big one in.
And that Callum killed 3 of them in the process.
So this isn't some random wolf. He refers to this specimen as a potential alpha from the Highfell clan. He's a critical leader they've captured.
And the description of Callum, it's meant to be the physical embodiment of the Northlands itself.
It is. He's the epitome of the wild and rugged mountains.
Muscular body, looks like it's carved from rock. Dirty blonde hair, shorn close on the sides. He is just the complete visceral opposite of the soft, regulated, heavily powdered culture Aurora is being forced into.
And his dominance isn't just physical, It's psychological. He's lying there, defeated for the moment, but he is clearly not broken.
Not at all. And the sources make a point of noting the effect this has on the other captured wolves, especially a younger one named Ryan.
Right, Ryan is defeated, and he has this expression of just utter resignation.
I found that detail about Ryan's face so resonant. It wasn't just fear, it was resignation. And Aurora recognizes it because it mirrors her own situation completely.
She is also a prize. She is also resigned to this cruel fate of marriage to Sebastian.
And that recognition, it fuels this anger that she has never, ever been allowed to summon for herself.
Precisely. That repressed rage is the engine for her very first political act of defiance. Sebastian expects her to be horrified, to recoil, but she steps forward.
And so calculatingly demands, let him live, talking about the young wolf Ryan.
This isn't just, some humanitarian impulse. This is a direct challenge to Sebastian's authority, right in front of his men.
And his reaction tells you everything you need to know about that power balance. He is enraged, but he's barely containing it.
Because she challenged him publicly.
She saves Ryan's life by manufacturing this perfect, sickening smile and claiming the Alpha Callum as a wedding gift to me.
Which, by extension, means Ryan is part of his retinue, so he's hers too.
Exactly. And that manufactured smile, concealing her deep disgust for Sebastian, whose fingers, she says, curl around hers like a vice. That's the key indicator of her internal conflict right there.
And this whole action, it's driven by the echoes of her late mother's words. Aurora remembers them as she decides to go down to the kennels.
They will make you feel as if you have no choice. But there is always a choice. Have courage, little one.
So her initial goal isn't even freedom for herself. It's to execute this one small choice to save Ryan before she is, in her words, wed to the Lord and left here to rot.
And that one choice leads her, hooded to hide her telltale red hair, down into the cold stone labyrinth of the bad kennels.
And the environment is immediately predatory. She walks past these male wolves, like a guy named Magnus, who explicitly harasses her.
Yeah, grabbing their crotches, calling her sweetheart. It just emphasizes the immediate raw danger she's walking right into. There's no civilized restraint here.
And the confrontation with Callum in his cell is so charged, she's there to protect Ryan, accusing Callum of being a bully, a monster.
A bloody, horrible brute, I think is the quote.
Yes, and what's fascinating is that this visible anger, this refusal to play the terrified victim, it visibly amuses him. He actually enjoys her fire.
He does, and he immediately uses her princess status as a weapon against her, throwing her privilege right back in her face.
What would you know about choices, princess? You've always had everything handed to you.
But then, right after that, the narrative completely complicates the monster label. Despite his recent brutality, Callum reveals he actually intends to help Ryan.
Right, he notes the boy has a dislocated arm that needs to be set immediately.
It's the ultimate trap. She's presented with this impossible choice. Either trust the man she just called a monster to perform a painful, necessary medical procedure.
Or let the boy die. And Callum reveals he's not just a brute. He possesses this intimate knowledge of wolf physiology and healing.
And he immediately converts this shared secret into leverage. He confirms he's planning an escape. I don't plan on staying for long.
And when she asks why he'd tell her that, he gives her this wicked smile.
What are you going to do, princess? Tell your betrothed, because that would mean telling him you came down here.
And I don't think you'll want him to know about that, will you? He completely forces her compliance. He saves Ryan, but in doing so, he traps Aurora.
And the quick setting of Ryan's arm, that gives Aurora her first real lesson in the Northlands. They just operate on a different scale of pain and recovery.
She sees a man used to people doing as he tells them, but also a man of decisive action. The duality is right there, even if she can't quite process it yet.
Okay, so let's fast forward to the moment of her actual capture. It happens not long after that kennel visit when Callum initiates a sudden siege.
And this is where the generalized threat of violence, either in the kennels or from her arranged marriage, it becomes immediate and terrifyingly specific.
The door to her chambers just bursts open.
And Magnus and his men prowl in. They explicitly detail their intentions. The source draws a clear line right back to Sebastian's earlier dehumanizing threats.
Right, it references the memory of the woman in the cell. If you wish to be taken like a common mutt.
And the reality of what Sebastian intends for her, tomorrow night this will happen to me, it just floods her mind.
No, wait, I have to challenge this idea of Callum as a savior here. Yes, he interrupts his own clan's actions, protecting her from Magnus and the others, but he's still her captor.
Oh, absolutely.
He gives her a final, brutal choice. I won't kill you, and I won't lay a finger on you in the way those bastards were threatening, but you're coming with me.
And if I have to overpower you in order to make that happen, I can't promise that won't hurt.
That's a powerful reading. He is absolutely a competing captor, not some white knight. But his method is, I guess, less insidious than Sebastian's or Magnus's.
I think so. He frames the choice honestly. Violence will happen if she resists, but the violence will be confined to the act of capture, not sexual degradation. It's a transaction based on power, but it's one rooted, surprisingly, in a form of rough honor.
She throws her tiny silver letter opener at him. It's laughably small, totally useless, but the action itself is critical.
It is, because it unleashes something primal inside her. The sources note, emotions that have lain dormant inside me for years awaken.
The wildness and anger she has caged since her mother died just surges hot and free.
And the decision to accept the kidnapping is a huge psychological watershed moment for her. She is choosing the immediate known danger of the wolf over the slow, inevitable suffocation of her life with Sebastian.
She grabs a cloak and admits this shocking truth to herself. She is glad I'm being taken away from my fate with Sebastian, despite how frightening this wolf may be.
She trades the chains of expectation for the chains of capture, and in doing so, she finds agency in the wild rejection of her fate.
So we've established this internal resistance, but that resistance is fundamentally tied to her Southland's conditioning. Now that she's physically out of the palace, we can really analyze the staggering psychological and cultural gap between these two worlds.
And it is a staggering gap. The
Yeah.
Southlands, especially for royalty, demanded absolute emotional and physical repression from Aurora.
She defines her entire existence by a restriction. She calls herself a prisoner, a statue in the palace gardens, a doll.
Her whole life was rigidly regulated by her father. For instance, she was forbidden to ride horses after her mother died, which is a subtle but profound denial of physical freedom and joy.
That repression is just pervasive. She thinks about all the things she couldn't do, no power to take my leave of this place, to breathe in the scent of heather and fern, to bathe in bubbling brooks or drink in local taverns.
She was trapped inside herself, she says, screaming, but her lungs were stone.
And this extends to her perception of the Northlands, which is rooted in this Southlands theology of fear. The high priest taught her the wolves were beastly things.
Right, that they hunt our kind when the moon is full. This ideology is the moral justification for the whole war, and Callum immediately starts dismantling it just by existing.
And physically, she is a complete liability in this new environment. She's vulnerable to the cold, she's struggling with a rough terrain, she cuts her foot running barefoot out of the castle.
She is fragile, a sharp contrast to the resilience of the Northlands wolves.
Let's expand on that resilience, because it's a marker of cultural superiority for the wolves. We see these clear details in the sources about their physiology.
She notes that wolves heal quickly. Ryan's eyebrow cut had already healed by the next morning. These rapid healing times and their physical hardiness make the wolves naturally better suited for war and this rugged existence.
So Aurora's fragility becomes a symbol of the Southland's softness, its over-civilization.
What's that?
Okay, so let's pivot to the Northland's wolves themselves. We saw the brutality in the kennels, but once they are on the run, we start seeing a clear code of conduct, a different kind of order and kinship that really challenges Aurora's assumptions.
Callum immediately exhibits this protective and territorial instinct. When they're getting ready to ride, he risks their entire escape plan because Ryan, the injured boy he helped, is missing.
He curses, fuck's sake. It shows genuine concern for the younger wolf's safety.
And the sense of kinship challenges that Southlands narrative that they are all just selfish brutes.
His justification for protecting her is layered too. Initially, he claims she's for ransom. He wants the heart of the moon. But when a guard mentions Sebastian will want to spend some time with this one, Callum stiffens.
He insists the kidnapping will keep her safe, and he swears he'll set her free. He rejects the idea that she is merely a prize, an object to be passed between men. This is where his honor really conflicts with his alpha nature.
And that honor is severely tested when Aurora meets Kaylee, who we later learn is actually named Fiona. Fiona's hatred is just palpable.
But it's justified. Her father was killed by Sebastian's army, and her village was burned to the ground. This isn't irrational prejudice, it's rage born of experience.
And this forces Aurora to confront the idea that the monstrosity is shared. Her civilized people are responsible for monstrous acts of war, too.
It's a realization that is, just exhausting for her physically and emotionally. Even Callum says, it tires me just thinking about it. The war is just exhausting to both sides.
And we keep seeing Callum's strange duality in how he treats Aurora. He oscillates between being this gentleman and this territorial wolf.
Yeah, after she witnesses the crude coupling in the kennel, she has a panic attack, and his voice completely shifts. It becomes surprisingly gentle.
Breathe in, breathe out, easy now. He guides her through it.
But his gentle voice doesn't mask his physical dominance. He is constantly touching her, carrying her, pulling her close, essentially caging me within his arms.
I wonder if we're meant to see this physical closeness as like a cultural norm for the Northlands, or if it's purely a deliberate territorial claim of ownership or protection.
I think the sources suggest it's both. It's a cultural norm to be far more physically connected. They're just less concerned with prudish distance.
But for Callum, it's primarily an alpha function.
Exactly, asserting possession. He constantly repeats that phrase, I take care of my own, which simultaneously protects her from other wolves and solidifies her dependence on him.
And this physical closeness, despite her initial repulsion, starts breaking down that stone statue. She finds herself leaning back against his warmth.
And the ultimate ideological separation comes when Callum challenges the lore that Aurora was raised on, the myth of the elder wolf. This is the fundamental religious dividing line that justifies the war.
The Southlands version, taught by the high priest, is just pure, simple propaganda.
It is. The elder wolf conspired with the moon and betrayed the sun. which led to a curse and a beastly existence. Transformation is punishment. Their nature is evil. It's very black and white.
But Callum's version, which he delivers under the dark Northland's night, completely reframes the narrative. It becomes a story of powerful, sacrificial, forbidden love.
He says the moon, Gilak, loved the elder wolf deeply and shared her power with him to save him when he was gravely injured.
And the crucial recontextualization is that the sun punished them by banishing Gilak. The curse wasn't turning into a wolf. The curse was the loss of power.
Right, meaning they could only shift when the moon was physically closest on the full moon. This transforms the full moon shift from a time of curse into a temporary moment of vulnerability following a blessed time.
So it's a loss, not a punishment.
Loss of a blessing, yes.
And the heart of the moon, the relic Sebastian supposedly holds, is not a sign of betrayal. Callum says Gilak ripped out her own heart and cast it down so the elder wolf could keep her power close.
So it's a sacred symbol of love, power, and their very identity. This explains why the war over the heart of the moon is so fundamental. The Southlands is holding hostage the Northland's most sacred, defining symbol of love and power.
And Aurora, now understanding the depth of this cultural divide, she realizes two things. First, her entire religious upbringing was propaganda.
And second, that the Alpha is naive if he thinks Sebastian will trade such a powerful, sacred relic for her, a princess she believes Sebastian views as basically worthless.
Her value to Sebastian is political, but her value to the wolves is potentially much deeper now that she holds this new knowledge.
Absolutely.
So after days of riding, Aurora arrives at Castle Madeleine, or Wolf Castle. The chaotic, unruly atmosphere is a complete shock after the silence and space of the journey.
And this is where the political machinations truly begin. We're moving way beyond a simple prisoner exchange now.
The initial reception is just intensely hostile towards humans. And while Callum is respected as an alpha by some, his authority is immediately challenged the moment they arrive.
Yeah, they encounter Robert, who is the acting king in James's absence, and Robert uses his temporary authority to undermine Callum immediately.
Robert leans into that alpha dynamic, but in a really negative way. He leers at Aurora, calls her Callum's pet,
and aggressively demands, the real question is, who are you? And what are we going to do with you? He insists they discuss her future as if she's just chattel, clearly trying to push Callum's buttons.
Right, and to question his right to claim possession over the human.
Robert represents that traditionalist, more aggressively xenophobic element of the Northland's nobility, the old guard who resents Callum's, let's say, modernizing tendencies and his focus on honor.
He's testing Callum's legitimacy, gauging if Callum is truly committed to the hard, necessary brutality of leadership.
Or if his perceived softness toward the human woman is a sign of weakness.
This tension makes the big reveal all the more impactful. James, the Wolf King, is Callum's brother.
Right, and that radically changes the narrative from a simple prisoner exchange to an internal dynastic conflict. It suggests the hostility from Robert is either actively encouraged by James, or is at least a symptom of the complicated relationship between the siblings.
But as dangerous as Robert is, the most calculated threat at the castle isn't the acting king.
No, it's Blake. He's smooth, unsettling, speaks with a Southlands accent while he's just draped casually on a chair, eating an apple.
Callum immediately distrusts him. He warns Aurora not to trust him, calls him a self-interested prick.
And Blake is the ultimate contradiction. He has this unnerving, polished Southlands accent, and he hints at a connection to the King's Guard, suggesting he has moved easily between the two worlds.
He immediately calls her Little Rabbit, using this mocking familiarity to establish superiority. He's the opposite of Callum's raw power. Blake uses subtlety and knowledge.
And that knowledge is his weapon. He is the castle healer, which gives him specialized access to and knowledge of wolf physiology. And this is where we get the critical insight about Blake.
He is the dangerous weaponization of academic knowledge against primal nature.
That's a great way to put it. The sources confirm this through the disturbing books found in his chambers. A Healer's Encyclopedia, a compendium of poisons and experiments, Book 1.
We don't need to list every title, but we need to analyze what the presence of these texts signifies.
It signifies this macabre scientific approach to controlling the wolves. Blake's notes detail specific experiments. Wolves' healing times for various injuries, comparing iron to silver wounds.
He asks these terrifying analytical questions like, if I remove a wolf's organs, will they grow back? And he documents the precise effects of wolfsbane and emotional trauma on the inner wolf.
He doesn't just want to manage the wild, he seeks to master it through research.
And this research is rooted in his own dark history. Aurora eventually learns that Blake's mother was human, raped by a wolf during a Borderlands raid, which makes him a half-wolf.
And this duality, this split identity, it fuels his contempt for both sides who behave monstrously.
His desire for power isn't about traditional kingship. It's about control over those he finds deplorable beastly wolves and cruel humans. He tracked down the wolf who raped his mother years later.
And he said, he cried when I showed him exactly what he had created. Blake is the living embodiment of the war's worst consequences, and that rage, channeled into calculated intelligence, makes him the most dangerous, unstable player on the board.
And Aurora's immediate vulnerability is critical here. Callum tries to protect her by hiding her in his rooms and fabricating a story that she's a kitchen maid named Aurora.
But that protection fails because the structure is just too porous. Robert and Magnus still challenge him, and the feast scene is terrifying. She recognizes correctly that if her true identity were known,
they would have turned on me instantly.
Right. And this political necessity, her survival, forces this pivotal compromise regarding the collar symbolism. Callum tries to make her wear his tartan collar, signaling she belongs to him, maybe as a mate or a prize to dissuade other wolves.
But he hates the tradition.
He does. He argues against the tradition itself. I don't want my people to think that is who I am, and I don't want you to think that's who I am, princess.
He's arguing for choice and honor, even within a possessive culture.
And Aurora, initially, she views the collar as utterly repulsive. She sees it exactly like she saw her engagement ring.
I just belong to another man. It's the same as back home. She refuses Callum's condition for her own room to wear the collar until he's forced to leave.
But the politics of survival quickly eclipse her principles. When Callum leaves, and Magnus threatens her again, she realizes she needs protection and, more importantly, movement.
She eventually chooses to wear the collars. First Callum's tartan, then Blake's black silk. It becomes a strategic tool for her.
Exactly. She realizes, I can't plot against the wolves and find out more information about the Heart of the Moon and the Wolf King if I am kept in Callum's room, in his bed.
So she chooses the collar for the freedom of movement and the access that it grants her.
And as Aurora moves from being this passive prisoner to an active plotter wearing the enemy's colors, we see her internal transformation just accelerate.
She starts fully embracing the Northlands lifestyle, realizing that her true freedom lies in accepting the wildness that Callum represents, not repressing it.
The psychological shift is profound. The landscape, which was once hostile, becomes beautiful. She finds the rugged mountains and the loch wild and peaceful and free.
The internal statue really starts cracking. She laughs, a sound she hasn't made in years. She welcomes the feeling of cold rain on her skin and realizes, I am here, and I am human, and I am alive.
She stops repressing emotions. She confronts Callum, pushes back when she disagrees. She even develops a desire for functional agency.
Right, she wants to learn how to fight after realizing her escape attempt blow was a pretty weak hit.
The denial of agency her father enforced is finally being reversed through self-empowerment.
And this profound personal shift happens just as the full moon arrives, which is the time of maximum danger and maximum cultural expression for the wolves.
Fiona explains the ritual to her. It's a time of excess where they drink and dance and cut loose, and then the moon rises and we shift to hunt.
The full moon unleashes their primal side, described explicitly as the need to hunt, to kill, to fuck.
This is the period where they lose some of their civilized restraint and are driven by raw instinct, and it's the perfect moment for a calculated attack.
Which Blake executes.
Of course. He pursues Aurora in his massive black-furred wolf form. He's clearly using this moment of primal vulnerability, dragging her down and taunting her. It's a calculated, savage move.
And it is Callum who intervenes, in his huge, tawny wolf form, forcing Blake to retreat.
But the truly fascinating moment is the aftermath. Aurora is terrified, winded. She's just watched two massive wolves fight over them. But Callum, in his powerful wolf form, is perfectly still before he does this deliberate human action.
He lowers his head in a bow.
That bow is everything. It communicates that the alpha, despite the overwhelming power of the shift, is still mentally present. He's still operating under a code of honor.
He's signaling, I am safe, he won't hurt me. And that action contradicts every single piece of Southland's propaganda about the beastly nature of the wolf shift.
And then comes the bizarre, intimate conclusion. He nudges her back down and proceeds to sleep on her lap, using his immense weight to pin her down.
It's simultaneously protective and possessive, a highly complex blend of animal instinct and human honor. He's making sure she's both safe from others and secured by him until morning.
And this shared trauma and this bizarre intimacy, it fundamentally changes their relationship. It leads to that highly charged tense scene after they flee the castle.
Right, and this is where Aurora, newly liberated from the statue, actively pursues the intimacy and the wildness she now desires.
And Callum, ironically, now takes on the role of the repressed one. He is hesitant and nervous. He's fighting his own instincts, insisting on honor and equality.
I do not want to become my father. I will not take from you. That's where I draw the line.
Yeah.
He's afraid he won't please you, or that the wild wolf will resurface and scare her off.
This is a huge internal conflict for him. He is fighting his biological impulses to maintain his ethical standard. He wants choice. He wants mutual respect.
And this frustration leads Aurora to demand he drop the decorum. She demands the wildness.
She does. Oh, for the love of the goddess, Callum, will you stop being such a big, bloody gentleman?
And this is the moment where the full implications of the mate bond, which is a technical concept we need to explore, are revealed.
Right. Callum explains it. It's a wolf thing. Rare, but powerful. Stronger even than love. Two souls chosen by the moon goddess to be together, their fates entwined.
But if the mate bond is so powerful, how does this biological imperative conflict with Callum's stated ideal of choice and honor? I mean, if their relationship is biologically determined, is the Northland's culture truly free?
That is the central philosophical tension of the wolf culture. Callum was trying to suppress the bond precisely because he believes in honor and choice, and he didn't want Aurora to feel coerced or possessed.
He was committed to protecting her honor before Sebastian's claim, believing he needed to set her free.
So the mate bond, therefore, undermines his entire political goal to free her through honorable choice by confirming she belongs to him biologically.
This deepens their relationship far beyond captor and prisoner. They are two souls struggling against political and biological restraints. He loves her, but the mate bond means his love is tied to his alpha nature and the very possessiveness he is fighting against.
It's a massive complication.
So, following that intimate night, Callum leaves to help his brother James, the Wolf King, who is reportedly in trouble.
And this is the opportunity Blake has been waiting for. Aurora is immediately kidnapped by Blake and forced toward the borderlands to meet James.
This is the critical setup for the political climax. Blake doesn't rush to kill, he orchestrates. At this abandoned manor house, James, the Wolf King, lays out Aurora's choice.
Marry him to assert dominance and insult Sebastian, or be sent back to Sebastian.
James confirms the deep personal investment in the war, revealing the devastating truth he shielded from Callum. Their mother was captured and killed by Sebastian's men.
He kept this information secret to protect Callum and, you could argue, to maintain his political control over his more emotional brother.
And Blake, having placed all the pawns exactly where he wants them, reveals his shocking ambition to Aurora. I want to rule them.
He intends to use Callum's fierce honor and his territorial nature to destabilize the throne. Blake knows Callum will eventually fight James, and Blake plans to be the one pulling the strings behind the new king.
The clash occurs near the borderlands, where Blake delivers Aurora to James as planned to lure Sebastian into the open.
And Aurora faces her fate and makes this final, definitive declaration of loyalty to the Northlands, and not just the cause.
I love him. I cannot marry you because I love Callum.
The armies clash almost immediately. Sebastian arrives, revealing he knows everything. Ryan's rescue, her capture, the rumors of intimacy.
The battle turns quickly when James is shot with a silver arrow laced with wolfsbane, which confirms the poison's acute power against the wolves and cements Blake's knowledge as a vital military asset.
James, weakened and desperate, shifts into his wolf form and bites Aurora just as Sebastian grabs her. This is a final, primal act of aggression and possessiveness.
It's intended either to kill her or transform her, to ensure Sebastian cannot claim her.
And this is the ultimate crucible for Aurora. She doesn't succumb. In this visceral climactic act, she pulls her hidden silver letter opener.
The pathetic little blade from the kennels that failed her before.
Exactly. And she stabs Sebastian, killing him in a violent, desperate bid for survival. This is the moment the statue is utterly shattered and replaced by a fierce, wild woman.
The sources indicate she survives the bite due to two factors. Her own inner wildness. Blake screamed at her to get angry with me, forcing her body to fight the poison.
And Blake's quick intervention to stabilize her. But the aftermath reveals the shocking final insurance policy that Blake had prepared.
He reveals he secretly bonded himself and Aurora in this dark, magical tether. If you hurt me, you hurt her. If you kill me, she dies.
This forced pain transfer explains why Callum experienced that sharp pain when he slammed Blake against the wall earlier. It was a preemptive measure.
The implications are just catastrophic for Aurora's agency. The bite, intended to transform or kill, and this forced bond means Aurora is no longer just human, nor fully wolf.
Her identity is now inextricably linked to Blake, the calculating half-wolf schemer, and her life is politically tied to Callum, who now must challenge James for the throne.
Blake leverages the bond immediately, forcing Callum to accept his help in challenging James. You won't be able to take the throne without their support.
The stakes are now intensely personal. Blake has guaranteed his access to power, Callum is forced to compromise his honor, and Aurora, despite gaining her freedom, is now tethered to her calculating rival.
What an immense journey. Taking Aurora from the constraints of the Southlands court all the way to the blood-soaked borderlands. She began as a repressed princess, a passive statue controlled by men.
And she achieved her greatest freedom and agency through embracing the wildness and violence she once feared, culminating in the death of her tyrant betrothed.
Her transformation is staggering. She traded the perceived security of the Southlands for the raw, brutal freedom of the Northlands.
Her quest for agency led her to kill, to desire, and to fundamentally change her identity, proving that the true monster often hides behind polite society, while those labeled brutes sometimes fight for a complex, rough sense of honor.
And here's the crushing irony we discovered in the sources. Callum fought so hard to protect Aurora's honor. He insisted on equality, he demanded respect for her choices and her agency.
Yet in the end, her life and political power are secured not through honor or free choice, but through a forced, calculating magical connection imposed by Blake, and a necessary path toward violent political war to place the man she loves on the throne.
The initial quest was for the Heart of the Moon, this sacred relic of love and power.
But the relic proved mostly inconsequential in the end. The true sources of power were Aurora's own love and rage, which broke her chains, and Blake's cold, analytical ambition, which ultimately created a new, more complex set of magical and political bonds that tie her to the throne.
So we leave you with this provocative thought. Aurora desperately wanted freedom from being a possession, from being a statue. Now, her life is magically tethered to a calculating half-wolf, and politically tethered to the man she loves, who must become king. Was the liberation of her wildness truly worth this new, more complex set of chains? Or is control simply the nature of power, no matter which side of the war you stand on?
Something to think about.
Think about that until the next time you join us for the deep dive.